Chinese peasants.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just.
China, I need y'all to know right now, that man does not speak for me. That man does not speak for me.
小红书
Ooh, breaking news. No! No more! I haven't even done the dishes yet.
Well, Donald Trump has backed down on tariffs. He's putting them on hold for something like 90 days, although waiting some exact detail. This was just a post he put out on his social media platform. One country that isn't being spared, though, China. In fact, the tax rate's gone up to 125%, which is an extraordinary figure. We wait to see whether or not China responds, and the 125% might go even higher. You can imagine how the markets have reacted. They are surging. So the big question, was this the strategy all along? Is that what he's going to suggest? Or is this just a massive admission of a mistake? Global turmoil off the back of these tariffs and everyone realizing that prices are going to go up. So the tariffs are on hold for 90 days. Who knows what happens after that? But he's backed down on something.
Just so you know, the majority of us in the United States do not agree with what JD Vance said about the people of China. He is a horrible classist human being. He is just nothing but a walking pile of excrement who nobody likes. Not even his wife and kids. Look at the pictures of them recently when he's around. They don't want to be in the same room as him. Neither does anybody else. He's a horrible human being. I'm sorry for his choice of words because, well, he's awful. And that is not how we feel about the people of China. That's how he feels about everybody because he is the lowest of the low. He knows it. And so he has to try and put himself on a pedestal. We, the American people.
Hey, I want to apologize that our Vice President, JD Vance, called the Chinese people peasants because we are actually peasants here in the U.S. We don't have health care. We don't have enough homes for our people. We don't have enough food for our people. And that's not for us to be ashamed of. That's for our leaders to be ashamed of, the people that designed this corrupt economy. So I want to apologize and say, please don't think he speaks for the rest of us, because he doesn't. Most of us over here think he's a horrible person. And Donald too. And Elon. Horrible people.
Anybody shouldn't be acting like that. You should be a little more humble, because he sure did have some humble beginnings, like a lot of us. Shameful is what it is, regardless of being in a tariff war or not. How he's treating people isn't going to be good for the way that we're represented around the world. You've got to remember this. When we go to other countries, I don't know if a lot of you travel, but if any of you travel overseas, when you go to other countries, people look to you about pretty much how your politics are. You know, when I've traveled even to London a couple years back, people first thing they think about, oh, are they one of those Americans that believe in this or one of those Americans that are like that? There's already a predispositioned outlook on you, and it comes from these politicians. So you may not care, but most people care about their reputation. It's just these jack-o'-lanterns that out there just spewing stuff just with derogatory. I just don't understand it. Bye. Let me know in the chat what you think about Mr. JD Vance's comments on China.
JD Vance told this in a Fox interview that was talking about Trump's tariffs. So he was defending Trump's tariffs, and this came out. So if you could also remember, there was this scandal in Signal messaging app 2 weeks ago, I think. And then the account of JD Vance was captured saying things about the European allies. He said something like, the European allies are freeloaders. So, and then this happened right now with the Chinese peasants. So there's this thing about VP JD Vance, man. But what do you guys think? Is this just merely like a publicity stunt, or is this just mainly an insinuating strategy to the Chinese, or is this just merely the VP trying to express himself and speaking the truth out from his heart? What do you guys think? Write me a comment. Let me know. Thank you.
Let me explain why. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. I'm David. I used to live in China. I lived there for about 12 years. I'm an influencer in China. I have over 8 million followers in China. So, you know, I have my family connected to China. My kids were born there. I'm very well established there, meaning I know a lot about that country. So let's talk about this whole thing with JD Vance. Now, if you guys have never been to China, I need to explain something. Do not trust Western media's opinion about China. Don't trust it. It's a lie. It is the biggest bullshit you'll ever hear. Let me explain. Number one, they never show you the positives of China. They always show you, oh, China's a communist country. They're shit. Oh, China. People are dying. No. It's not like that. Oh my God. It's not like that. China is a country that within the last 30 years went from a fishing village to Shenzhen. Do you guys know Shenzhen, China? There are more than 17 million people that reside there. And it's not like a shithole with 17 million people. It is a cosmopolitan paradise. It is a very urbanized city, only third after Beijing and Shanghai. It is one of the most developed places on the planet where you could literally walk around and pay with your face. Now, I used to live in North China and then I lived in South China. Let me tell you, Chinese people are some of the most educated, amazing, fantastic people I have ever met in my entire life. And I don't know, once I left China and came back to Australia, I realized everyone's doing the hating on China, the shitting on China, the hate. You know, I got sick of it. So I started saying stuff, and then I was in the newspaper saying David is getting paid by the Chinese government. For fuck's sake, I was never paid by the Chinese government. This video is really me just telling you the truth. Now, let's talk about JD Vance. JD Vance now talks about how they give money to peasants and this and that. How could you, I'm not even bloody American, how could you call a race of people that went from farming villages to one of the most developed countries on the planet, if not behind the US, competing with the US within a period of 20 to 30 years? How could you be so ignorant? I feel like he's such a racist bastard. Do you know what I mean? He's just, I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't know what to say. Thank God I'm not an American, because if I was, holy shit, I'd be arrested. All I'm saying is, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Anyway, talk to you guys soon.
So JD Vance called Chinese people peasants. JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States. In 2022, I was one of less than 200 American students in China, and one thing that really frustrates me the most is just how much our American politicians lie about China. The truth is, they have not stepped foot in China for a very long time. And it's frustrating to see people believe them over Americans who've been living there or studying there or working there in recent years. For example, me, anytime I say anything positive about China, I get called a spy, or that I'm being paid by the Chinese government, which is literally the craziest conclusion you can jump to. And I see it happening to every other content creator talking about China in a positive way. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's address what he said. There weren't many Americans in China during the time that I was there, and even now there's still not that many, especially living there. So if you go to any of the large cities in China like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, anything like that, you'll see a bunch of designer malls and designer stores literally all over the city. And one time I walked into the designer mall, and this mall was huge. It had every designer brand that you can think of, and even ones that you've probably never heard of before. And to this day, this might be one of the craziest displays of wealth I've ever seen. I'm not even gonna lie. As someone who's been to 40 countries at the age of 22, I have not seen anything like this before, and I've been to some of the richest cities in the world, okay? And to this day, I have never seen something like this before. So I saw this old Chinese couple walking out of Hermes, and they had 2 personal assistants with them. And everyone, all 4 of them, they were each carrying at least 5 giant bags of Hermes. You would not believe how many they had in their hands. And I was in shock. They were carrying probably $1 million worth of stuff. And listen, I'm familiar with the upper class of the United States, okay? It's not something I'm unfamiliar with. And I just don't think the upper class of the United States is living the same degree of luxury as the upper class of China. I really don't. Shanghai is genuinely one of the most luxurious cities I've ever been to, if not the most. And I stand by that statement. I visited rural China too, okay? And yes, there is definitely wealth inequality in the country, just like every other country in the entire world. Okay, you can bring up that argument if you want. Wealth inequality exists everywhere. And before you guys get into my comments and start getting mad at me, no, I'm not saying that rural China is comparable to Shanghai, okay? The same way you can't say, oh, all Americans are living amazing lives, and then there's places like rural Mississippi and Beverly Hills or the Hamptons in contrast with each other. How much longer are they trying to keep up this idea that China is a poverty-stricken third world country that's living in disaster?
Sure. Hi, Duncan, the American who lives in Germany here. This was JD Vance putting his foot in his mouth. In a normal world, this would be considered a faux pas or a gaffe or just a stupid thing for an American vice president to say. But he was also kind of reflecting the general opinion of most Americans towards Chinese workers. The fact is, most of us do view Chinese workers as peasants. In fact, I would go out on a limb and say that most people in the Western world view Chinese workers as peasants. And I would also say that the Chinese government sort of treats their workers like peasants. This is sort of reflected by the price you pay every time you purchase a pair of shoes or tools, power tools, or anything on Amazon. Most of the goods being produced in China. And being produced very cheaply, I might add, due to the low wages, virtually peanuts, that the Chinese worker receives. This is one of these cases where I don't agree with JD Vance for saying what he said, but I also believe that the Chinese government is guilty of mistreating their workers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Until then, have a nice day.
China, I want you to know right now, that man does not speak for me. That man does not speak for me.
JD Vance, you really do fit right on in with this current administration because you think you can just say whatever you want, whenever you want, to whomever you want, and you just get away with it. Well, guess what? In positions of leadership, like the Vice President of the United States, your words matter. You remember Greenland? You remember Ukraine and the Ukrainian president whose country is at war, who you insulted to their face and said to be more grateful? Yeah, ring a bell? Well, how about we don't insult our largest trading partner in the world and call people peasants? Because remember where you came from. And remember the people who look up to you, who followed you on your journey, this rags to riches, if you will. Well, guess what? None of that matters if you don't have a shred of integrity or kindness or compassion left for people. You just fit right on in with the swamp. Drain the swamp. Guess what? You're right on part of it. And you should be wholeheartedly ashamed of yourself right now. This is not conduct, and these are not words worthy of the Vice President of the United States. It's very disappointing. Do better.
Okay, I pulled myself together, put a little eye stuff on, wash my hair. Now let's talk about JD Vance and his ignorance, or as my friend calls him, shady pants. he made a really disgusting comment, something to the fact that we borrow money from Chinese peasants and we buy the products that Chinese peasants manufacture. You might want to tuck that racism back in, Shady Pants. China's pissed off. China's like, you're blackmailing us with the tariffs. They're just like, fuck you at this point. And the thing is, we all got a little glimpse into China, at least Chinese society, with the app Red Note. And people were really pleasant and polite. And it just teaches you that propaganda really destroys minds. And JD's adding to that issue.
Peasants. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just...
So Donald Trump is saying that he thinks the iPhone could be manufactured here in the US. Currently, they're manufactured in China. Even though they come at a higher than average price tag compared to other phones, they are still somewhat affordable for the average person in the US. However, now with the tariffs imposed on Chinese goods, the amount of the iPhone is going to skyrocket. And if the iPhone will now be manufactured in the US, you could expect to pay thousands for the phone. Thousands of dollars for an iPhone. If this isn't absurd at this point, I don't know what is. Just your reminder, Donald Trump has no idea what he's doing. These tariffs are what so many people voted for without realizing what they would actually do.
One thing that this tariffs nonsense has really shown me is just how alienated most Americans are from the products that they consume day in, day out. They genuinely have zero idea the production process that goes into like the vast majority of their little consumer habits. Like, there are genuinely people, voters, who have the understanding that, what do you mean? Food comes from the grocery store, right? Like, the takeaway when you hear the price of an iPhone could jump up to $100,000 per phone if it were wholly made in the United States should really be, oh my God, the rest of the world is directly subsidizing the American consumer lifestyle. Someone pointed out, oh, the tariffs on Madagascar are going to radically increase the price of vanilla, which will have massive knock-on effects on the rest of the market. And people were like, what do you mean? We'll just grow our own vanilla. Naturally, those people got absolutely schooled on how impossible that is and how demanding vanilla cultivation really is. But the lesson there is that the only reason we can have bottles of vanilla extract for like $5 a pop is because the global neoliberal order has turned the global periphery in like countries like Madagascar into export-oriented economies. Are these tariffs a good policy? No. But the prosperity that Americans enjoyed under free trade is because of the exploitation of the global south. And that's actually more problematic. To the point where Americans don't even know that in order for them to have $5 t-shirts and caramel macchiatos, there are hundreds of millions of people in the global south, faceless hordes to most of you, who had to suffer lives of poverty and exploitation and death. That is the original sin of the American economic system, and until we solve this problem of alienation, of people not knowing where their stuff comes from and who made it, we're just going to be squabbling over different modes of exploitation.
So let me get this right. The author of the book, The Hillbilly Elegy, said today, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture on the same day that our government decides to impose 104% tariff on China? I don't know, but I don't think that's how diplomacy works. And neither side, China or the United States, is willing to budge. Why didn't this administration alongside JD Vance just say, we're going to impose a 1,000,000% tariff. Like, that's how outrageous and outlandish all of this sounds. But I guess this is to be expected when we, the American people, decided to elect these two prestigious authors. JD Vance, the author of Hillbilly Elegy, and our own very own President Donald Trump, the author of Think Big and Kick. Well, there you have it, folks.
So I've heard someone is trying to provoke us by calling Chinese peasants. To be honest, we don't care. We simply just don't care. We are not so traumatized. But on the other hand, there is actually a psychological phenomenon called repetition compulsion. That means someone repeatedly reenacts his traumatic experiences from the past. So you get what I mean? Maybe he should get more sessions with his psychologist this week.
Chinese peasants. I am a Chinese peasant, and I'm proud of it. My parents are peasants. I am the child of peasants. My parents came from poor backgrounds and often went hungry when they were kids. Later, they moved from the countryside to the city to start their business. They live frugally, work hard, and valued education. They helped build modern China with their own hands, saving up to raise generations of university students. I was lucky enough to receive the best education. My peasant parents even managed to send me abroad to study, helping me become a peasant entrepreneur. It's the peasants of China who made a huge difference in this country. They worked with their hands to solve their own hunger, lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty, making China the second largest economy in the world. In China, we admire the hard work and self-discipline of the peasants. And these values are written in our textbooks. Vice President Vance, have you forgotten that you were born into poverty? Have you forgotten that your mother struggled with drug addiction? We have a saying in China, don't forget your roots. Now that you have your status, you look down on the peasant class. Your society is falling, cities are decaying, values are twisted, and there are homeless people and addicts everywhere. So the social classes are sharply divided and the internal conflicts are unresolved. You can't fix your own problem, but always try to throw them onto China. We Chinese peasants have made it on our own. So why the hatred towards us? I predict that you and the Trump administration won't last long. Internal chaos will break out immediately. I hope Vice President Vance will apologize to us, Chinese peasants.
I don't want to talk no shit about any political shit. I'm just simply hating Trump. I have no intention to talk no shit about American politics because what am I here to talk about, right? But I am a Chinese. Sitting here minding my own fucking business. I work 996. For all of y'all who don't know what that is, I work 6 days a week. All right? And I am a working class. I make this shit holes of money. I do want to, make a bit more. So I invest in West stocks. That fucking little Cheeto man, I don't know, across 13 time zone, 13-hour time zone. In China, there is a saying that if you take somebody's money, it's almost like you killed their parents. Could you just give me my fucking money back? I kind of want to Naruto him, Rasengan him. Can I assassinate him somehow? I thought maybe, all right, I'm just going to find a little bit, my inner peace. Started scrolling on my Red Notes. Red Note is a really peaceful place. All of y'all know that. And then, just when I click on some Brandon Foreigner's post, I click in and then I saw all the disturbing American news. I sense was scared. I sense anxiety. I saw somebody's gonna terminate some court. How? And then he fucking put tariffs on what, penguin? And then he's gonna put on what, 100 or somehow percent of a tariff on what? That's more profitable than drugs, guys. What the fuck? I don't know what was going on. Could you just give me my money back? I work that much to save a little bit more money. So in that way, I'll buy my own property. I can support my kids and, for my kids to, travel around the world and shit. You're doing that to the American people, they wouldn't be able to afford any sorts of travel overseas. I don't know. I saw a lot of people saying that. And then why would you do that to me? I had no business doing with you. Cheeto guy, what the fuck? You know what? In ancient China, when the emperor trying to, prove his worth, he would tend to conquer more women, finding a way to live forever. Go that route. Try to conquer your wife. Research on some medicine that will leave you, make you live forever, instead of just not fuck over with my money. Oh my god.
Look what JD Vance said. Do you want to know what the American version of peasants are? It's this and this. This is the largest Republican-led city, I believe, Oklahoma City. Look at China. I rest my case. Enjoy your morning.
People are asking me whether I'm afraid of the potential price increase in China caused by the new American tariff policy. So I looked around my house for some American products. The only thing that I can find is this iPhone 16 that I use for TikTok. And it's probably also made in China. So no, I don't think the new tariff law will.
Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for supporting Comfort for Life. Thank you for your like, share. Thank you for every support that you're bringing on this platform. Thank you for taking your time to comment. Also, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let's have an interaction. I love interacting, and then I interact with every comment that is dropped on my platform. Thank you so much for being here. As I was compiling these videos, an expression came to mind. You know, if you can't win them, we join them. But the way that Americans are going about this is, I don't know what you think about this. If you can't win them, we alienate them, we disturb them, we bash them, seriously, what is this? For the United States, for America, let's not say, because right now in the comment section, so many people are saying America is a continent. America is a continent. So many people don't want to associate themselves anymore with what is happening in the United States. And I'm glad that there are Americans out there who have come up to share their thoughts on what they think. They have even been bold enough to apologize on behalf of their vice president. And yeah, I'm glad that this is happening and that Americans are now standing for what is true. I know there are those who've been standing a long time ago, but right now, the number of people who are standing against these are way more beyond we can even imagine. Thank you so much for being here. We wish you luck, Americans, with the tariffs with China.
Chinese peasant.
Yeah,
I am a Chinese
we
peasant,
hope for the best.
and I'm proud of it.
And we know
my
that
parents
change
are
is
peasants.
hard.
I am
but
the
we are
child
here
of
to
peasants.
accommodate to
My parents
changes.
came from.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.